Welcome back to Speed Week. It's now time for finals action at the Australian Nationals with the best drag racers from around the country. Top alcohol, top bike and Aeroflow sportsmen go in search of the coveted gold Christmas tree at Sydney Dragway.
Whilst the top alcohol championship is one and done for Gary Phillips, the race for second position is well and truly on. With only 9 points between fourth and second, these boys know it's anyone's game.
What a tight race, so close at the top end of the racetrack, but Steepman just squeezed out the win.
Trying to finish strong this weekend. I know we can't get number one, but certainly we can come number two. There's John and Steve Reed. We're all sort of tied for second at the minute.
It's going to be tough. Like Steve Reed and Steve Ham are both really good competitors. They've got those cars going fast, so we'll see how it plans out today. The Australian Nationals is always a fantastic race to win. We managed to win it last year, and we'll be trying to do it again.
Very good reaction time for Reed. Sting looked a little stronger early, but Reed, happy birthday. The last time the top bikes were here at Sydney Dragway, we saw the true destructive nature of these wild machines. Oh my goodness, off the bike and tumbling like a rag doll down the quarter mile.
It's harder on everyone else than yourself, your family and friends. It's not good for the guys either. We've actually gone to a bigger blower, so it's probably arguably a little bit worse, a little bit better. We just got to find our rhythm and get on with it. So this weekend's a shakedown for us.
Searing conditions, awfully gusty as well here at the 2013 Australian Nationals at Sydney Dragway, and the smarter of the gang heading to the 4X retreat for some much needed retreat. What a points battle this has been throughout the year for Sidchrome. Gary Phillips leading from Steve Ham, it's not going to change. Reed, Canuli, Newby, Gorsey, Price and Sting. Top alcohol qualifying started with a close call when Luke Shepherd's altered and Mark Hinshelwood's funny car got up close and personal at speed. Fortunately, both drivers were able to steer away and avoid a major incident. Newly crowned national champion Gary Phillips would be the quickest of the session, with a peddling 5.96 ahead of a field that was still looking for the sweet spot at Sydney Dragway. The second session of qualifying at the Australian Nationals would see big improvements as conditions improved for the top alcohol teams. Luke Shepherd ran his quickest time of the event at 6.59. But it would not prove enough to put him into the 8-car field for race day. Queensland's Steve Reed stepped up in a big way, clocking his quickest ever pass at 5.56 seconds that would stay number one for All-Star batteries. In the other lane, Rick Gorsey's 5.86 in the Aeroflow car would be just enough to stay in 8th position by the end of qualifying. Top alcohol had just one dragster competing, with Adam Marchant getting into the groove on a 5.71 pass. Wayne Newby making it a great side-by-side pairing, with his JBS Tools funny car stepping up to a 5.76 as the field prepared for the final qualifying session. Q3 opened with Victorian Wayne Price solidifying his place in the field with a 5.83. Luke Shepherd alongside again left searching for traction in the altered. Gary Phillips waited until the last session to show his cars, going 5.74 for his quickest run of qualifying in the Lucas Oils funny car. But Wayne Newby got wild alongside, giving the wall some love at over 350 k's an hour. John Canuli did what he had to do for Doodoo in the final session, using a 5.67 to move into third position on the ladder. The final run of the session would see second in the championship Stephen Ham fighting to make it into the field. A 5.59 came just when he needed it, putting him into number 2 on the ladder and making sure ECL Racing would be there on Sunday. So thanks to Sid Chrome, let's have a look at your qualifying results. And Steve Reed, very good job for the defending Nationals champion, Rusty.
Yeah, fantastic effort. First number 1 qualifier for a long, long time for Steve Reed, and well, he really earned it. That was probably the pick of the runs out of all of qualifying. Just a fantastic effort.
Now, disappointing for Adam Marchant after making the show, he then withdrew.
Yeah, had some problems after qualifying, withdrew, which fortunately for Mark Hinchelwood opened the door for him to be reseeded into the field. So it does mix up the first round matchups just a little bit, but still we've got some cracking matchups in the first round.
And here's one right now. Rick Dorsey very heavily involved in the administrative side of ANDRA Championship drag racing. Right alongside him is Steve Ham. He's had an excellent year, but you know what's scary? He's come out and run second and has openly said, no, we've just been developing and testing. Wait till next year.
Yeah, they've been playing with a lot of new things. Now, notice it's got the Mustang body back on that car for Steve Ham this weekend. It's actually the new body on the old chassis with a whole bunch of new bits and pieces underneath the shell. So there's all sorts of things going on inside this car. The young crew chief on it, James Rowland, he tries just about everything and anything to make this car go fast. And they've got so much horsepower at the moment, it's just a matter of matching it up to the racetrack, which that's what they're struggling with at the moment.
Man, it's going to be a fat 2014 for that team, isn't it? So we wait for the Aeroflow Performance Products entry. All part of the Rocket Industries Group, have been wonderful supporters of the Sportsman Drag Racing Championship this year. That is a, to quote Rusty, a gorgeous Ford Mustang body. As we take a look over the top, here for Top Alcohol, the final round of the Australian Top Alcohol Championship. Points-wise, it's already shot to bits. They can't catch Mr. Top Alcoholic Gary Phillips, but we can see an awesome Australian Nationals battle right here.
Yeah, there is always gold Christmas trees up for grabs when we get to the Australian Nationals. First time in a long time it has been the final round of the championship as well. So there's a lot on offer, a lot of bragging rights on offer. And, well, we've got a match-up with 2 fantastic funny cars. Now, huge hole shot for Rick Dorsey, massive hole shot. He has problems though. Steve Ham drives around him and gets a win. A 5.60 gets a win over a troubled 6.71. But man, Dorsey strapped a hole shot on him.
An 07 light, which is handy in very, very stifling conditions here. Very hot, very sweaty, and very windy as well. You just saw Dorsey out early, and then Ham went, see ya, wouldn't want to be ya. Nice run. He will head forward to the semis. John Canooly's had a pretty stout run this year, but it's a few ups and downs, but of course a runner-up spot in Darwin. He's always got a few different projects on the go, including a pretty radical Tirana.
Yeah, he's got a twin-turbo Tirana that he's planning on running in the Pro Street classes. Of course, another different division of drag racing, I guess you could say, the APSA boys, but
he's not busy enough.
He's not busy enough. He's got all sorts of things, and don't forget his wife Kirsten racing Pro Stock as well. So, you know, they've got just 1 or 2 race cars in the family.
What does he do? He does lots. That is that beautiful doo-doo car in that right-hand lane as you look down behind the cars right here. So Wayne Price from Lower Plenty in Victoria made the semis here at the Nationals last year. Speaking of Mrs. Canooly, she was just down in the back of John's car just then.
Yeah, it's not often the car goes down the racetrack without her standing by and casting her keen eye over things. Wayne Price has been particularly sharp on the tree this weekend. John Canooly's going to have a race on his hands on this Christmas tree.
Good light for both these guys in 0.68. It's an ugly situation for Price, and Canooly will rock away with a 5.70 and a 3. Look at that, 402.9 kilometres an hour.
Yeah, I thought Canooly, the car looked a little bit ugly at the top end of the racetrack. It looked like all the cylinders went wet just before the finish line. That's because you saw the blower belt skidding out behind the back of the car. So it did toss the blower belt. Not the cleanest run in the world, but hey, he gets the win and he moves on to the semis.
It's amazing what technology is these days. Just saw one of the Price crew recording data using the iPad. It's just the way of the world as we see Debbie Reed backing up husband Steve. What a great result for him. Number 1 qualifier. It's been some time since that happened, but opposite him, what a fairy tale story.
Yeah, Mark Hinchelwood driving that car out of the Sainty stable. You can see it's in its trademark yellow colours. Of course, this car also powered by an alcohol version of the nitro motor we see in the Sainty Top Fuel car. So first time out this weekend, first time qualifying for a Pro Series field, or an ANDRA drag racing field, I should say. And Mark Hinchelwood, he's just happy to be in the field. Of course, got there by default when Marshall pulled out. But hey, doesn't matter how you get there as long as you get there.
It's good to be good, better to be lucky. It is a sweet-looking car, isn't it? Good crowd here at the Australian Nationals as we get set for Top Alky. And that, of course, that Sainty name across the back. Plenty of input there. Hinchelwood Can he make another step in the fairy tale? It's going to have to be a big effort up against the #1 qualifier.
See what, the car was creeping in the beams a little bit. Great light from Hinchwood. He's got him. He has got the #1 qualifier and moves on to the semi-finals in his first ever appearance in Top Alcohol. What a fairy tale so far. A 6:08. Normally you wouldn't expect that to get the win against the #1 qualifier, but hey, it's good enough this weekend.
You just saw then Reed drifted out of the groove, a fair bit of tyre shake as well, which sent him in that direction. So Reed goes from #1 qualifier to on the trailer, and that is the beauty of championship drag racing right there. Final matchup coming for us now. That is Wayne Newby. The new colours, the JBS Tools black and red. Of course, we're used to seeing colours more like the crew shirt just there, the black and blue colours. But Newby, who really has not had the greatest of seasons, it's been a busy time for him. He's going to have his hands full here with the, again, Australian Championship decorated driver Gary Phillips.
Yeah, but he's wrapped up his 16th national title in Top Alcohol. Of course, he's got one from Top Door Slam to add to that as well. So 17-time national champion. Don't forget, Wayne's won a few himself. So we've got a lot of championships sitting on the start line at the moment. But Gary Phillips has come into this event. He said, right, we've got the championship locked away. I need to work on my reaction times. He isn't known for his lightning reaction times. He knows he needs to work on it. But coming up to this event, his theory has always been, I'd rather be late than red. Well, he needs to work on that because Top Alcohol has tightened up so much over the last few years.
Well, that was their emphasis on that pre-testing session. Faber competition parts on board, along with JBS Proven Industrial Performance. Wayne Newby closest to camera. A couple of very handy funny car pilots right here for Top Alcohol, the Nationals. Nothing in it at the lights, an 06 and an 056. Newby! He had it, and he crept across the line and smashed the timing boxes, and he's gone.
Wow, that got a little bit scary then. You saw Gary Phillips get way over towards the centre line. He actually strapped the whole shot on by 4,000ths of a second, Gary Phillips, but got over near that centre line, and Wayne Newby thought he had it in the bag, but you forget you're driving a funny car now, Wayne, and they don't handle as good as the dragsters. You can see they can bite you, and they bite you hard.
So Phillips will advance. Newby had him, but unfortunately, he is out as a result of crossing that centre line. Ham will face Canuli. Phillips will face the fairy tale Hinchwood coming up in the semis.
To the pit report now, and newcomer Mark Hinchwood joins us. You've just taken out Steve Reed, and he was vying for second place in the championship. What is working for you?
I know. Look, I'm absolutely pumped. We cannot believe it. The Sainty Top Alcohol funny car. We're just testing here today, and we're actually going rounds. We cannot believe it. We are so pumped. We're so excited. Bring on 2014, because Tig is coming back with a Sainty Top Alcohol funny car. Yeah!
From Top Alcohol to Top Bike, coming up after the break, we get spooning with these two-wheel Exocet missiles. So stick around. So crowd settling to the edge of their seat right now as we get set for some wicked top bike action. And a championship, well, it's about to be decided. Qualifying coming up here very shortly. The points coming in interesting. If Porter out-qualifies Morel, he will win the championship. A great result for him. Matheson, though, still mathematically in with a chance at second, despite missing several rounds. Burnett, Parker, Durack, Grant, and Mark Drew rounding out your top 8 for the national championship point score. Top Bike is all about muscle of both man and machine, and it was both coming together in the opening qualifying pass, where championship leader Chris Porter managed to hold on to a wild bucking Bronco of a Nitro Harley. Just check out how much the bike tried to throw him off in the early part of the run. Graham Morrell was looking to seal his second place in the championship, and he began his campaign well with a 777, carrying the front wheel much of the way. There was a hush among the Sydney Dragway crowd when Chris Matheson returned on a rebuilt Nitro Voodoo for the first time since his major braking area crash in May. On this pass, it was all tyre smoke as he got a savage reintroduction to Top Bike. The wild times continued into qualifying session 2 when Chris Matheson and Chris Porter matched up. Matheson got out of shape and crossed into Porter's lane, Porter narrowly avoiding hitting Matheson's bike. In the next pairing, Gordon Crawford's 8.63 would be his quickest pass of qualifying, as he searched for a tune-up that would keep both cylinders alight in his Nitro Harley. In the final qualifying session, Chris Porter finally had a pass without drama, and a 7.14 was the result, which would qualify him third and secure his first ANDRA Top Bike Championship. It may have been the first time in 3 seasons Chris Matheson has not won the title, but he ploughed ahead and carted a 6.96 to top qualify for the Nationals as some consolation. Rob Cassar alongside continued to search for the key to getting his nitrous Kawasaki down track with just a 13-second pass. The session would close on a high as Gavin Spann ran his quickest ever pass and his first ever 6-second run with a 6.97, whilst Michael Gregg improved to an 8.44 alongside him to round out the night. And so there you have the results, thanks to Sid Chrome and Matheson. How good is he? Comes back after that situation earlier in the year, and 6.96 eradicates the demons, doesn't it?
Yeah, it certainly does. Gavin Spann gets his first 6-second pass in the number 2 slot, so a couple of 6-second bikes coming into eliminations, and the championship, well, it's pretty much all wrapped up now. Chris Porter's got the trophy on the mantle, but Chris Matheson, number 1 qualifier on a, well, pretty tough race here, up against a guy, Neville Smith, who didn't even get a pass in qualifying.
Yeah, so he's got nothing to lose. Might as well just throw everything you have at it. Here is the rebuilt Nitro Voodoo craft of Chris Matheson, and you have to think mixed feelings coming back to this very circuit where we saw that unbelievable get-off from him.
Yeah, it's one of those things. You'd be pretty nervous getting onto a top fuel motorcycle at the best of times, but when you've already come off one at 230 miles per hour, you've got to think that you'd have something in the back of your mind. Chris Matheson, he hasn't really shown anything to prove that he's got that in his mind at the moment, because he's come out qualified number 1. That bike is just an absolute weapon. It scares me just looking at it, Wade.
That's top bike for you right there, isn't it? They are an unbelievable bit of kit, aren't they? Nev Smith aboard the Pirate Racing. Well, they're going to be calling this class for next year Top Fuel Motorcycle. And let's face it, that's a fair call.
It is, because that's what they are. They are nitro fueled. Of course, we do have an occasional nitrous bike. We even have one this weekend, I should say.
Yeah, Robert Casser.
Exactly. So it is a pretty good diversity as far as the different types of motorcycles. As you can see, the supercharged 4-cylinder bike from Matheson here up against the V-twin for Neville Smith. But in theory, they should be side by side at the finish line. Well, not going to happen this time, though.
Both of them, in fact, wow. Belt coming off by the looks of things from Matheson. Both left pretty spectacularly, but there was dramas from that point there. Matheson will limp home. An 08 light is fairly handy at your first time back. And he runs a very slow 14.143. I say very slow. I wouldn't want to run a 14-second pass on a top bike.
Especially if it started like that, Wade, with the tyre smoking and, well, not going straight, just about doing everything you don't want it to do, threw the belt off, but hopefully he can get that thing back for the next round of racing. Next pair up, it is going to be your number 2 man in the championship, Graham Morrell, taking on Michael Gregg, the local boy from Prospect Smash Repairs. So good to see another local racer coming out in top bike here.
Bit of a shake of the head just then as he prepared himself. Not sure if that was what am I doing here or let's get after it. Let's go and get Mr. Consistency, Graham Morrell, who's trying to wrap up second in the championship this year. He'll kill you with consistency, this man. Gee, they're both very lazy off the line. 0.2 light for both of them.
Yeah, both riders getting it to the finish line just about under power, but Morrell, an 8.18 is not really what we've come to expect from him. We've seen that bike pretty deep into the 7s. Still goes 229 k's an hour, so the thing was still moving pretty quickly at the top end of the racetrack. Nothing visibly wrong on the run, it just wasn't as quick as what we're used to seeing.
And what we are used to seeing with Graham too is usually the front wheel about 6 to 8 inches off the deck. He does tend to mono the thing pretty nicely indeed. Out comes the world's most awesome noodle box delivery vehicle. What a weapon this thing is. The Spanner Man, Gavin Spann, great result from him, from Ormo in Queensland, just off the freeway, not too far from Yatala, where they make the world's best pies. There you go. Bit of useless trivia for you there.
But he's up against Robert Cassar, that fantastic looking bike out of Victoria, one of the nitrous bikes we were talking about earlier on in the show. And he's going to be up against it here. It's the second time we've seen him running in top bike this year. Hasn't had a huge amount of success, been struggling with the bike this weekend. Hopefully got to be on top of his game here because Gavin Spann has been running 6s during qualifying.
Oh, good night. Spann, extremely strong. you have to really manhandle these bikes, don't you? A 7.24 with a 7 at 236 kilometres an hour. Interestingly, Casa actually ran a bigger top speed in that situation, but not indicative in the result, and Spanner will head through to the semis.
Yeah, pretty ugly run there. You can see he actually rolled off the throttle well before the finish line. The thing was dropping cylinders left, right and centre, so to run a 7.2 is still pretty competitive. Next up, we have got our new national champion, Chris Porter, and mate, these guys have been absolutely crashing over the last few events. They've had a lot of attrition. Yeah. They've had to change input shafts, gearboxes, engines. They've had to change just about everything in the bike, and they're down to their last bare bones. I don't want, no pun intended, no. with the racing name there, but you know, these guys are down to their last few bits and pieces that they've got in the shed.
Gordon Crawford from Mundaring in Western Australia gets away fairly good in terms of his light, but he's not going to catch this man right here. How does it look on the timing side of things? A 7.88. Not by any means Chris Porter's best run, but as you said, at the moment, they're probably just trying to survive here. Have a look how hard it pulls to the right-hand side. Just saw the shift light just there, a bit of red light situation. Gets it back in the centre, and the new Aussie champ heads through to the semis, despite probably not the speed he wanted. Matheson faces Morel. Span takes on Porter thanks to Sid Grome.
Pit report now, and Gavin Span joins us. We haven't seen you since the Winter Nationals. You're through to the semi, and it's a happy hunting ground for you here, but it needs to be because Chris Porter is up next.
Yeah, that's sure right. In 1994, I ran my first 7-second time on a postal bike, went 7.99. So that was a long time ago, and yesterday was the first for me to ever run a 6, which I did a 6.97, so I was ecstatic. So it's a long time between times, so it's great. We're in the semi-finals against Chris Porter. It's windy out here today. The track's hot, so it's very, very tough conditions.
True champions start young, and Daniel Carenza is sure aware of this advantageous fact.
He's flying over to Perth next week, picking up a junior dragster. Yeah, he's going to start racing junior dragster next year. And he reckons, as soon as he's getting his licence, he's going to get a door slammer and come and beat me.
Yeah.
No way. Take it easy, mate. What do you mean you're going to beat me?
Oh, I get 100 horsepower.
Don't do it, mate. Trust me. Don't do it. Do something else. Go play football, play soccer. Nah, it's good. You'll have a lot of fun. The commitment his parents will have to put into it, like it's, you know, everyone thinks, oh yeah, roll up on the day, but there's a lot of work that goes on behind it, even with junior dragsters. Mate, yeah, how competitive the junior dragsters are, like, they're crazy.
Well, Peter Kapiris endorsing the product. Thanks very much, mate. I'll just have one of those a bit later on, if that's all right with you. Junior dragster out on the racetrack now for semi-finals. You cannot underestimate the commitment from families that race this incredible little category of motor racing. They travel the length and breadth of Australia.
Exactly, and you know, we've got guys racing from Victoria, WA, Queensland, Northern Territory, even Tasmania. We've got just about every state and territory represented here in junior dragster. So, you know, we're semi-final time. To get to this point, it takes a serious racer.
It sure does. The JNC Mowers skips racing entry just there. As we get set, that's Nightala. And this is to get through semi-finals into the final. And a red light, that would burn you big time right there. Of course, they run over the 8th mile, not a quarter mile, but extremely quick. It doesn't look that way on TV at times. There you go, Barron the win with an 8.30 due to the red light situation from Lighthour.
Yeah, it was a good run in the end, but unfortunately the red light ended it for Lighthour. But, you know, you put it into perspective, these kids are running about 130 to 135 kilometres an hour for some of the quick cars over the 8th of a mile. That is, it's 25 k's quicker than you can do on the freeway.
And they're very, very good at the lights too, these young kids, make no doubt about that. Dale Duffy, the Power Cruise entry, 796 handicap, Aeroflow performance parts, bringing you a Sportsman Drag Racing Championship. Duffy gets a solo pass, runs an 03 light. Now, you, of course, have triumphed in this class before, many, many moons ago.
Absolutely. It was a long, long time ago, and that probably gives you an idea about how long these cars have been around for now.
20 years.
Upwards of 20 years.
Yeah.
You know, I started out back in 1996, and they were around for about 3 or 4 years before that. So you see some of the races that we've had come through in modified and all sorts of other classes. It's quite phenomenal.
Modified bike as the boys get a good view from the 4X retreat. Kevin Cleve aboard the Suzuki GSXR. We have often talked about what a fascinating class of drag racing this really is. It is a run what you brung concept, as Robert Simmons pretty well illustrates in that gorgeous Suzuki Hayabusa. Yeah. Modified bike, and they are modified.
Oh, they are really quick. That Hayabusa running very low 9-second passes, and Kevin Cleve, another very tough racer who usually goes into the deep rounds of eliminations. Double red light there. That's very unusual.
Either way, it's going to affect our result at the other end. Whoever red lights by the least margin.
Absolutely, and in this case it was Kevin Cleve, and it was lucky because he broke out as well by 0.02 of a second. Simmons would have got the win, but that red light, it's nasty. That will beat you every single time. And you can see Kevin Cleve, well, a bit of a get-out-of-jail-free card there, but certainly he'll take it.
You really have to be so good with the clutch with these things, don't you? There's no wheelie bar on the back to stabilise the bike. You can literally launch the thing, as we see Sam Taylor aboard the Kawasaki Ninja. A 9.29 on the swing arm tells us he's going to get right after this thing. Let's see how well he fares. An 09 light, that's handy. Solo pass for him. He's going through to the final regardless, but he shuts it down early, so there might be a problem there for Sam.
Yeah, that didn't look like a planned shut-off to me, but then again, you know, stranger things have happened. I would have thought you'd take the opportunity to test your dialing, but a 14-second pass, it's not going to win too many races in the final round, especially here at the Nationals.
Maybe he's saving the bike.
Maybe.
He's looking at the replay. It wasn't a bad light, but really didn't even get to about third track, and he was off it, so I guess that was the plan right from the get-go. Maybe he was just testing his reflexes.
Well, he's certainly got good reflexes, and he'll have to put them to the test in the final round. Moving on to Super Street now, and that is Rob Winterburn from Daisy Hill in Queensland taking on, well, the local racer Stan Nikitaris in this very tough little Capri.
Yeah, it is. Launches very hard. In fact, this class, as we know, launches extremely hard off the line. Winterburn is dialing up an 11.67, facing Nikitaris with an 11.32. So visibly, there won't be much at all difference in how they leave the line. I've always been a sucker for a nice little Capri.
Oh, it's a good-looking car, and, you know, Stan's been driving this car for a long time. He knows exactly what it does. But Rob Winterburn is one of the toughest racers in Super Street out of Queensland. He's travelled down here for the Nationals, and he wants that trophy on his man.
Crystal blue skies here at Sydney Dragway for the Australian Nationals. Super Street time, boys, trying to get themselves into the final. Both cars launching pretty well. The Capri ranges towards the centre line. Here's where you start to play the game.
Well, the red light, unfortunately for Stan Nikitaris, just about rules him out of this race. 0.29 red on the tree, and hands a win to Rob Winterburn. Goes 11.64 on 11.67, so he actually broke out. Another get-out-of-jail-free card there. Remember, the handicaps are nominated by the racer themselves, so if they go under it, bang, you lose the race. That's it, you're out. If both races go under, it's by whoever goes under by the least that gets the win.
This is a wild-looking bit of kit as well in Super Street. Very different, the Chevy Bubble Top of Carl Taylor.
In with a shot at the championship as well, we might add. It's a pretty tough one, though. He needs to win the entire event to win the championship, and then he will win it on countback. He will go back on tied on points with Mark Phillips, so he really needs to do the double to get the championship. It's a very, very tough ask for Carl Taylor, but he's a tough racer. Goes 11.29 on 11.26 dial-in, and he actually red-lit by 0.03 of a second on that run. So Carl Taylor, he needs to just slow it down a little bit on the start line.
Coming up after the break, Top Alcohol and Top Bike semi-final time here at the Australian Nationals. Please stick around. It's going to get wild.
I approached Norm Sainty about 6 years ago and said, Norm, can I drive your funny car? And he looked at me and said, no problem. So here I am, Top Alcohol, running my absolute dream. As a kid, I've grown up watching these guys, and here I am actually alongside, racing with them. It's absolutely fantastic. I cannot believe it. Norm Sainty, the team owner and principal, is actually technically blind, so absolutely has 7% vision, and he does everything by his secondary senses, smell, touch and feel. Absolutely incredible. We had a good team meeting last night, and the crew chief's telling me, you know, you're doing this wrong, you're doing this wrong, you're doing this wrong, and I'm looking at him saying, it really can't be that hard. I've got a couple of buttons to push, a parachute lever and a brake, how can I muck it up? But it is so intense. You are fighting that car all the way down the track. It is absolutely running on the ragged edge. Even though we don't really have a tune-up in it yet, and this is our first meeting per se, we're just out here having fun. Can't thank the Sainty family enough for taking me under their wing, showing me what Group 1 racing is all about. Bring on 2014 ANDRA Pro Series drag racing, because the Blind Obsession Top Alcohol Funny Car is coming to town.
Semi-finals time for Top Alcohol right now. If you're just joining us, Gary Phillips has already wrapped up the championship. He'd done that before we came into this event. But it's about bragging rights. It's about another Christmas tree, and there's going to be changes to the Christmas tree format too for next year. We should talk about that a little bit later on. Ham will face Cannuli, and Hinchelwood and Phillips. Some good pairings coming up here to see who gets into the finals. What can you elaborate on the new Christmas tree idea for 2014?
Well, of course, we always award the gold Christmas trees to the major events. So the Nitro Champs, the Nationals, and of course the Winter Nationals. Well, in addition to that, instead of the plaques that have been awarded for the other events during the year, they're actually now going to award silver Christmas trees, which I think is a very nice touch because, I mean, let's face it, the Christmas tree trophy is one of the most iconic trophies in Australian motorsport. Everyone wants one. They're incredibly difficult to win. And I think it really just adds a little bit more credence to those other events outside the major ones.
I agree with you. ANDRA Championship Drag Racing, of course, you can find them on the net and certainly on Facebook as well, as we see John Cannuli backing up the Doo-Doo World in Your Language funny car. And he will face Stephen Ham, a pumped-up Stephen Ham, who is second in the championship proper. There is this gorgeous ECL Racing Mustang. You've got me saying that all the time. Mobil 1 entry. It is a sweet-looking ride. Cannuli's been very busy too. Of course, so too with Paul Cannuli coming into a bit of competition recently as well.
Yeah, been racing the Top Door Slammer at a few selected events up and down the East Coast. But, I mean, the main focus of this team is on the alcohol funny car. This is where they really want to be successful. He's had a pretty good season so far. He's got a runner-up and a couple of semi-final finishes as well. So, hasn't been a bad season by any stretch of the imagination. But Top Alcohol is so competitive. There have been 7 different winners so far this season. In eight events so far. It will be 9 at the end of this one. 521
cubic inches, either one, each one of them possess. Ham v Cannuli here at the Australian Nationals at Sydney Dragway. Critical lights, nothing in it there, but good night, Nurse. Wow. Did he get the concrete? I think he did.
Yeah, it looks like he might have flattened the headers there. Steve Ham, 570, 376 kilometres per hour. Still probably not what they were expecting. They were probably asking a little bit more of it there. But John Cannuli, way out of shape, over near the wall. That's not where you want to be in a funny car. Another replay of it there, and yep, he certainly got that wall.
John, a bit bittersweet there, hitting the wall slightly, but I mean, 3rd place overall. What a season you've had.
Yeah, we've had a great season this year, and we tried to hop it up that time. The race Steve Ham has been running really fast all year, and especially just the last few rounds, and we decided to go after it, and I think we went a bit too hard, but that's good. The Crossroads guys and the Doo-Doo team have performed a really good season this year, and see how we go for next season.
Yeah, John Cannuli disappointed, no doubt about that. Gary Phillips facing a man who's just thrilled to be out there right now.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, Mark Hinchelwood, he's gone from the outhouse to the semi-final so far, and he wants to go to the final. Remember, he ended up qualifying as the... Oh, he's got a lot of shake after that burnout there. You can see the car really carrying on a treat. Hopefully no serious problems, but he came in as a number 9 qualifier. Of course, the Adam Marchant car withdrew after having problems after qualifying. That put him into the field in the number 8 spot, and he made it count. Took out the number 1 qualifier, Steve Reed, in the first round of racing.
Now, just with you notice that for people that are new to drag racing, there's almost always someone, when these cars back up as they go into stage, there's always someone that will just spray across the butterflies. What's going on there?
It's basically to lubricate the butterflies, make sure they don't freeze up, because these engines, they run on methanol. Methanol by nature is very, very cold, and when you're spraying fuel into the hats, it can actually ice up. You can actually see the condensation, because it is quite a warm day here today at Sydney Dragway. The condensation just forming across the top of the injector hat there, and the aim of the game is to actually stop those butterflies from freezing shut and not letting you hit the throttle.
Fair enough. Always looks like the barbecue sauce bottle as a general rule.
Generally speaking, yeah, they work the best.
Hinchelwood over on the right-hand side. Beautiful day for drag racing. Probably a touch hot, if anything, but it beats the hell out of rain, doesn't it? Here is Gary Phillips. His lovely wife, as always, right by his side. She wanders back, Let's hubby get after it. Is he chasing a gold Christmas tree today? You better believe that. Mr. Top Alcohol, Gary Phillips. Alongside Hinchelwood, who wants to continue the fairy tale.
A great line from Hinchelwood, 0.73. He's going to give Gary Phillips a race, but just too much at the top end of the racetrack from Gary Phillips. A 5.74, 390 k's, higher speed than what we saw out of Steve Ham, but a 5.74, that gives Ham lane choice going into the final round.
Hinchelwood did a great job just to get to that point, but when it comes to big events like this, Gary Phillips often in a class of his own. Let's get to the deep end right now.
Gary, in true championship style, you were smooth there. I mean, how much are you wanting to finish strong, even though this is yours?
Smooth, I don't know about smooth. I was a bit concerned when he nearly went to the finish line on the burnout, and this thing had the front wheels up and it shook, and I'm going, no. But, you know, pedal to Texas two-step, hey. For Lucas Oil Products, I'm happy little Vegemite, I tell you.
He's a happy little Vegemite, he said. You heard it from the man himself. Finalist coming up soon. Phillips v Ham, thanks to Synchrome. It's going to be a beauty.
To the pit report now, and Steve Ham joins me. Now, you've already wrapped up second place, but you want this meeting, but there's something on the track that is your gremlin and you can't overcome it. Tell us about that.
Okay, it gets to about just before the finish line, and there's a big bump there, and every time it hits the bump, the car actually goes airborne, and it hits the rev limiter and breaks the blower belt. So every run we've been going about 5.2 seconds, the belt breaks and we can't stop it at the moment. So I'm just hoping that Gary's still battling the track and we scoot on down there for a high 50 or low 60, and we'll be happy with that.
Crowd settling in for some great top bikes. Semi-finals action right now. And we're going to see Graham Morrell up against Chris Matheson and Chris Porter up against Gavin Spann. There is your Synchrome race ladder. I've got to say, if you're going to be a drag racer and you're going to be from somewhere in particular, Graham Morrell has the coolest home suburb of any drag racer I know. Where's he from?
Launching Place, Victoria.
Launching Place, Victoria. Those guys do ride rockets, so it makes a lot of sense to me. Here he is. It's a very narrow bike at the front compared to, say, some of the bigger bikes that he faces. He's also looking at a new chassis for next year for a bigger motor that he's running.
He's already got the new running gear to put into that bike, but just doesn't have the bike yet, so he's still looking for that. And, of course, you will notice there's an absence of another motorcycle on the other side of the racetrack. That's because Chris Matheson, unfortunately, couldn't make it back after damaging that bike in the first round of racing.
And that is devastating because it's been such a massive recovery for him. Look at Morrell, absolutely staring, glaring at that tree. What can he do to get himself in? Lazy light, a 351. It's a classic if you're a Ford perspective, but let's see what he runs at the other end. Is he going to run it right through? No. Shuts it down, I would think, at 8.93 is not representative of how consistent that man can be, but you know what? He's into the finals. I just don't think he's going to get lane choice.
No, I don't think he will get lane choice with that one. The bike didn't sound like there was anything wrong with it, just didn't pick up the front end like we're used to. It just doesn't seem as quick as what we're used to seeing out of him.
Yeah, you might be right. So Chris Porter will now face Gavin Spann. This will be an interesting battle. Both these guys certainly have the capacity to run the sixes. That is just a weapon bit of gear, isn't it, the Spanner man? The noodle box entry, just like those little boxes. It's amazing what they can cram into those things. It's amazing how much engine is crammed into this amazing bike.
Oh, it is a wicked piece of machinery. Originally campaigned by Peter Pearce many years ago, who on occasion used to ride the Pennzoil top bike, the party time top bike that we know and love. But Gavin Spann's got a hold of this thing and he's making it work now. He's made a few changes, a few subtle little changes here and there, and he's finally got into the 6-second zone. He wants to go quicker. And, well, to do that, he's going to have to get around Chris Porter here. This is going to be a tough matchup.
Also a lot of legacy as well with the Elmer Tret side of things, the custom Tret specifications on board that bike. Of course, one of the true greats of the sport in the US who was tragically killed many, many years ago, but his legacy still certainly lives on. Porter facing this man on screen right now, Gavin Spann, for a spot in the finals to face the very consistent Graham Morrell.
The newly crowned champion as well, we might add, for Chris Porter.
These things are just an incredible bit of kit, aren't they?
Oh, they are fantastic, and you could not pay me enough money to get on top of one.
Boys waiting to come in, just waiting on Spann. He's the last one to get in the hole. Here we go, not much in it, the light Porter. It's an ugly ride for him. I think Span to go for the second twist of the throttle, and Porter goes, good night. And they've got problems. There's a lot of smoke coming out of the engine for Porter. He still runs a 7.07. Span a 7.45 with a 5. Span had him.
Yeah, Span had him on a plate there, but again, the bike started dropping cylinders at the top end of the racetrack. Porter gets the win, but at what cost? That thing was smoking like Puffing Billy at the top end of the racetrack. Hopefully it's okay.
Chris Porter, 7.071. You've wrapped up the championship. Tell us about it.
Yeah, sure I have. The Fraser Top Fuel Harley come on hard in the end there. Just got around the front of Spanner Man, held him out all the way to the end. And we are number 1.
Yeah, that's a great result. He's absolutely ecstatic, but they've got some work to do to get to the final. He'll face Morel, but the boys are going to have to change a motor by the looks of it.
To the pit report now, and the current top bike champion, Chris Porter, joins me. Now, it's going to be so tight between you and Graham, and I know you're going to want to go out on an incredibly big high, but you've got a lot of work going on there. Is the recovery process going to plan?
Well, it is the best as you can. You know, we're thrashing. We punched a rod through the piston on that last pass, so we've done a whole front cylinder, complete rods, bearings, everything. So the boys are thrashing. We're going to get it done. We're going to get him.
Junior Dragster final right now, and one very excited young man from a, Australian Nationals point of view is this young guy, Dale Duffy. The Power Cruise entry, the Donnelly Blasting Crossroads racing machine, will get a solo pass here, Rusty.
Yeah, unfortunately, Tim Barron fought all the way through to the final round, and then the car would not start for the final round. So Tim Barron will have to settle for a runner-up finish here at the Australian Nationals. Dale Duffy will take the win. The numbers really don't matter, but the championship, that's what we really need to talk about as well, Wade.
Well done to Dale. Congratulations. He gets it, but it was phenomenal. All 5 guys, it was 5 different drivers tied for the championship win. Yeah, to go back to a countback.
Came back to a countback. They all went out in the same round of racing. You can see there the points, all on 300 points. Braden Naylor is your 2013 Australian champion in Junior Dragster.
Dale Duffy, you just got your first Christmas tree, the Australian Nationals. What did it come down to for you?
Oh, it just come down to running on a dial-in, and unfortunately Barons couldn't get to the finals because they had problems with their cars, but yeah, win's a win.
Damn straight a win's a win, Dale. Very well done, son. Modified bike, final time right now. And, well, Cleve comes to this with some good form at 8.86 on the swing arm. That is effectively what he'll be aiming at to be around the Suzuki GSXR. And this guy aboard the Kawasaki Ninja Aeroflow Sportsman Drag Racing Championship modified bike, Sam Taylor, a 9.29. So there'll be a slight difference in terms of leaving for the lights.
Yeah, had a few problems in the semi-final round. Didn't get a full pass in, only a 14-second pass. But luckily, it was on a solo pass, so it makes absolutely no difference in this race now. So it's going to be a good one. As you said, dial-ins 9.29 for Sam Taylor, 8.86 for Kevin Cleve. So Taylor will be leaving first.
Kawasaki will get off the line first. Oh, red light! An 0.4 red light for Cleve. So Taylor should just walk this home.
Yeah, he should.
Oh, jeez.
Wow.
That's scary.
What a ride from Kevin Cleves. 9.26, but that's not the story. It looked like that thing lunched an engine at the top end of the racetrack, and the back of the bike stepped way, way out. This is going to be the telling shot, Wade.
Oh, man, that thing was sideways.
Sam Taylor, well done. Your first Nationals win. It's been a pretty tidy weekend. How have you found it?
Yeah, it's been great. It's been a long weekend. Obviously, we started the campaign early Friday morning, so we've had 3 long days of being here in the hot weather, but it's been a privilege. Sydney's do a great job. Our track marshal's, he's great at what he does, so it's been a lot of fun.
Well done to you, mate. Congratulations. Well, championship-wise, though, Gavin Don't did.
Yeah, he did. Got over the top, well, almost by default. Unfortunately, Tony Frost, who came into the event tied on points, actually came off the bike in qualifying, had a pretty nasty accident. So hopefully everything is okay there, and he will be back on track shortly. That's not the way you want to win a championship.
No, big shout-out to him. Let's hope that he gets well very, very quickly indeed. Robert Winterburn, we saw him, of course, before get out of jail somewhat, up against the Capri earlier. Now he's got to face the bubble top. This is a remarkable situation. If Carl Chevy Taylor can win this, he'll win the championship.
Yep, he'll end up tied on points with Mark Phillips at the end of the event, and he goes back to a countback. Whoever goes further gets the championship, and, well, you can't go much further than an event win.
Here we go. Australian Nationals, Super Street style. The big bubble top up against the Commodore. Winterburn, furthest from camera. Chevy Taylor, closest to camera. Not much in this. Very good light to an 04. Can it be converted? The Commodore looks pretty good here, but you've got to be careful. You can see them looking over.
Yeah, they're both looking at each other.
The bubble top will get there.
Oh, he did. He drove around him. 11.35 on 11.29 gets a win over an 11.78 on 11.64. Winterburn looked like he just dabbed the brakes a little bit too hard, and he is kicking himself inside that car. The head went down. And, well, Carl Taylor, he is your new Nationals champion as well as your national champion.
Carl Taylor, you have taken the title yet again, backed up last year's win. Well done. How's it been for you?
It's been great summer. Just like to thank a few people. My wife, my kids, Peninsula Engine Services, Burson's Auto Parts. Yeah, it's just been absolutely fantastic.
Very emotional man, Carl Taylor. Great stuff too. Well done. He wins the Aeroflow Sportsman Drag Racing Championship for Super Street. Mark Phillips, well done, Graham Cooper, Jerkovic, Kerr and those guys. Full credit to them as well. Well, fans settling in for some great top bike final action right now. And one thing we do know, right now Chris Porter's crew were busier. And you know what? Getting another engine shoehorned to that bike.
Here's your Sid Graham ladder. You can see how they got there. The final round is Morel versus Porter. But as you touched on, they had big problems between rounds. Actually had to swap out a motor in this bike. Now, usually in a top fuel dragster, swapping out motors is pretty routine. In top bike, however, not the case. It is a big job. It's a major job. And they're pretty lucky to get it back here for the final round.
Normally I would be thinking that this man here would be very, very stout for a championship final round win here in Morel, but I haven't seen the best of Graham today. He really hasn't had that normal sting. Porter too has been extremely busy. He hasn't had an easy ride, so this could go anywhere. Look at the jumper already. Got the NDRA top bike champion on the back. The last time we'll see them as top bike. Next year they'll be top fuel motorcycle branded Morel v Porter here at the Aussie Nationals at Sydney Dragway.
Clean Green's advantage to Porter. The bike is ugly again early on in the run. He's streaking out in front, and I think he's going to hold it. He does a 7.18, 284 Ks, gets the win. And Morel, well, first time we've seen him in the 7s in eliminations today. He gives it a good shot, but just comes up that much short.
It was a pretty good battle early, but then Porter just pulled away. I don't think Morel really had anything but issues with his bike here this weekend. He had it down the middle, but that's where Porter just rode away.
That was the icing on the championship cake, wasn't it? Tell us about it.
Oh, that was freaking awesome. I'm telling you, the bike just took off and then it hooked up when the second stage locked in and it was trucking.
Gotta love that. Chris Porter like a Kenworth. Nice job. Congratulations. He wins the double too, the championship and the gold Christmas tree here at the Australian Nationals. And it's time for top alcohol right now. Your finals on the line here. Gary Phillips and Stephen Ham, and appropriately too, Rusty. It's first and second in the championship coming in. This is how he got to that point, thanks to Sid Chrome, of course. Hinchelwood, what a marvellous job to get himself in. A marvellous job, that's to face Phillips, but Gary put him away, and out rolls the Hambone. This thing is a weapon. What a big year set for next year with this ECL racing team.
Yeah, promises to be a big one. I know they've got a lot of stuff lined up in the off-season that they're trying to test and trying to get on the car to test, find out what works and what doesn't so that they can come out and, well, hopefully for them, shut down Gary Phillips for another championship. But it's not just Gary Phillips they need to worry about. There's a whole bunch of other guys next year. But we've still got this race to go. Before we even get to 2014, it's all about the Nationals here. Steve Ham, he had lane choice coming into this event by 0.04 of a second into this round of racing, I should say. And Gary Phillips, you can't discount the guy. He just won his 16th national title. He's got another one in Top Door Slammer. The guy can win anything. Conditions getting a lot better here for the top alcohol cars as the sun starts to go down here in Sydney as well.
Just cooling conditions just a little bit. Bring the boys back into stage. You have to think Canuli will be pumped up about next year. You have to think that Newby will want some retribution as well. He's had a development year in some situations. Of course, he won in Adelaide. He looked very strong there. And he lives, of course, just down the road from this racetrack, where his race shop is certainly based. This is a weapon, the Ford Mustang, up against Gary Phillips. Of course, a couple of Queenslanders, Chevy Monte Carlo shot Gary Phillips against the Mustang of Stephen Ham.
Just a mean-looking bit of gear, isn't it? It's just a fantastic-looking body for drag racing, that Mustang. The Monte Carlo, Seen a lot of laps these days for Gary Phillips. This thing's been up and down the racetrack 1 or 2 times. And as always, Debbie Phillips guides her husband into stage. She says, you're set to go. It's got to give you a lot of confidence when you go through that same routine every time, and you've won just about every time you go down the racetrack.
Here we go, Rusty. Phillips v. Ham for the Nationals here at Sydney Dragway. Nothing in it at the lights. Ham out of shape, Phillips out of shape. Gary, phenomenal. Another win in a bursting cabinet. 5:49 with a 7. 421 clicks, thank you, baby.
That is a booming run. That is the quickest ET and biggest speed we've seen all weekend by almost 1/10 of a second. That is incredible in the heat of the day. I mean, Steve Ham, he was driving that thing all the way to the finish line. A 5:61 looks slow.
We're trying somewhere instead of like 16 championships for Lucas. What a fantastic way. 2 Christmas trees in one deal. You know, it was a sort of anticlimactic winning it in Darwin, but for Lucas Oil Products that have been with me for 18 years, it's just absolutely unbelievable.
What a year it's been. Congratulations to Gary Phillips. He'll get the win from Ham and Cannuli. Good battle between those guys. Steve Reed too. Expect big things from Steve Reed. That is your Sid Graham ladder for the final time for Top Alcohol. Rusty, it's been a phenomenal year, mate.
It's been huge. I mean, I can't even pick a favourite point of the year. It's just been such an epic year as far as ANDRA drag racing goes. Bring on 2014.
Absolutely. Hope you've enjoyed our coverage this year. Thanks to all the folks at ANDRA. Well done to all the teams and all the fans. We'll see you next year. Critical lights, nothing in it there, but good night, nurse. Scooby! He had it, and he crept across the line. And we go for the second twist of the throttle, and Porter goes, good night. Sam out of shape, Phillips out of shape. Gary, phenomenal.
Impressive racing across the board there, and what a great story there is behind Top Alcohol runner-up Steve Ham. He boldly claimed second place unexpectedly after planning to simply pick and choose rounds to gather the right data to one day support a full championship campaign. Well, I bet 2014 has every round on the cards now. To up-and-coming events for next year, and ANDRA Drag Racing kicks off the new season with the Nitro Max in Perth. That's on January the 10th and 11th with Top Fuel and Top Bike. At the same venue a few weeks later, Top Door Slammer and Top Alcohol open their campaigns. We also have the Australian Sprint Car titles to enjoy at the end of January at Latrobe in Tasmania. Then early February, join the Speed Week team getting fired up about the Liqui Moly Bathurst 12-hour. That's a must-see from the 7th to the 9th of February. Next week on the show, we have a massive download of two-wheel action for you. Round 3 of the Australian Supercross Championship comes from Mount Gambier with pro lights in action. The Australasian Superbike Championship follows on with a one-off showdown with the best head-to-head in Sydney. That marks the end of the show this week, but if you can't wait until next Sunday for a hit of Australia's best motorsport action, jump online at speedweek.com.au. There's all the action from today's show, plus plenty of extras. And don't forget, we love hearing about your latest motorsport news and views on Facebook and Twitter. See you again, same time, same place, next Sunday.